This film came out on Wednesday in the UK. Went to go see it, came out of it, and I was in such deep thought and contemplation. And I was like, I have to go see this film again. So I went to go see it again yesterday. So this is the first film that I've deliberately seen twice in the cinema before doing a video for it, because I just had to piece it together, contemplate it, and just bear with me as I tried to put my thoughts together on this one. I was really, really looking forward to Life of Chuck, as in this was my most anticipated film over the past like 3 to 4 months. Everything I was reading about this film sounded like the kind of film that I would just completely adore. And I did adore it, but it was not entirely the experience that I was expecting it to be. What perplexed me the most about this film, and I think it'll be the same for a lot of people, is Act 3, which happens at the beginning of the film, where you're following Chiwetel Ejiofor, Karen Gillan, and the universe is ending. That was the part of the film that I needed to kind of, pontificate the most, because I expected it to be a lot more straightforward in the sense that I thought that Chiwetel Ejiofor and Karen Gillan were going to be, people that Chuck has met once or twice who had a big impact on them. And I thought it was going to be kind of like It's a Wonderful Life in that regard, showing how one life can have such a big impact on so many other people's lives. In reality, it's kind of like It's a Wonderful Life in a more introspective manner, because the third act of this film essentially all takes place in Chuck's mind, or his inner universe. And later on in the film, where you see young Chuck with the teacher, Kate Siegel, Mrs. Flanagan, of course, cameoing in her husband's work, as always, and she's telling him about the concept of multitudes and how everybody he'll ever meet and everybody he'll ever see will become part of his own inner universe, his own inner world. And that's what Act 3 is. It's all Chuck's inner universe. It's filled with people he's met, people he hasn't met, because the teacher also says people you'll also imagine will be part of that universe as well. And she talks about, you'll build continents and cities and countries. And in that third act, you keep seeing news reports or hearing about how, California's lost and there's been a volcano in Germany and the world's ending because Chuck is dying. And as he's dying, his universe in his head is crumbling. I've seen a few films that try to tackle the complexities of the human mind, but this here, Act 3 of The Life of Chuck, is one of the more unique and resonant explorations of the complexities and the beauty of the human mind. Because it makes you think about your own mind, your own inner universe, and all the people you've met, all the places you've seen, all the places you haven't seen, just even like in YouTube videos and in films and TV shows, and pretty much all the information that you've gathered in your life that you've kind of mentally and subconsciously stored in your own inner universe. And you just reflect on thoughts you've had, not fantasies, but just daydreams, dreams as well, where all that stuff is coming to play on a subconscious level that you're not even trying to piece that stuff together, but it just happens in your own inner psyche. And that's what I mean when I say this film wasn't entirely the experience I was expecting. I wasn't expecting it to go that deep into the human mind, because I was expecting this to be, a life affirming, joyous, uplifting film about life and embracing life and living life to the fullest. And it is that in Act 2 and 3. Sorry, Act 1 and 2. But in Act 3, it just went a bit deeper in the whole subconscious element to it. But I really ended up digging it after seeing the film a second time. And it's probably the most thought-provoking aspect of The Life of Chuck. The way they actually execute it in the film, where Chiwetel Ejiofor and Karen Gillan's characters are sitting there under the stars, and suddenly all the stars just start disappearing suddenly. And that's, Chuck's dying and his universe is officially crumbling. And when the universe ends, that caught me off guard, but also really affected me, because it just shows how suddenly life can end out of nowhere, and everything you've ever known, everything you've ever loved and experienced, gone in the blink of an eye. Then in Act 2, Buskers Forever, is the big dance scene that everyone's been hyping for the past year since it debuted at TIFF. And yeah, it lives up to the hype when Chuck stops and starts dancing to the beat of those drums and that random woman from the crowd joins him. I mean, how can you watch that scene and just not have the biggest smile on your face and just feel good about life? And it's just one of those scenes that just conveys the joys of life and tells you to live life up to the fullest whenever you can, find the joy in the mundane. That kind of shit in films I adore, and I adored pretty much all of Act 2 because of that. And then Act 3 is the most personal of the acts, as it pretty much shows all of the characterization of Chuck. You see his childhood and growing up with his grandparents, Mark Hamill and Mia Sara. By the way, Sloan Peterson from Ferris Bueller's Day Off coming out of retirement to be in this film for Mike Flanagan. That is incredible. Love to see that. And Act 1 is where a lot of the film's heart really comes forward as we see young Chuck navigating what he wants to be, what he wants to do. You know, his relationship with his grandparents is really touching and really sweet. Mark Hamill as the granddad that's honestly one of his best roles in ever. I just adored him as that character. And, you know, seeing his love for dance develop through his grandma, and seeing him in the dance lessons and just trying to find that spark and what he wants to do, and the doubt of whether or not he wants to pursue it, because Mark Hamill, his granddad, gives him that big monologue lecture about maths and how it's applicable in every facet of life, both on Earth and in the cosmos. And I thought it was just so beautiful when he's at the dance and he's really unsure about dancing because of what his granddad's been saying. Goes outside, looks at the stars, and thinks about how his granddad was saying, even though the stars are a big maths equation. Then he sees the shooting star and he gets really excited. And you hear in the voiceover later that when he saw that shooting star, he saw a star dancing. So he goes back in there, dances with the girl, and we get another incredibly joyous scene. And then he starts dancing in the open field under the stars. Just so joyous, so wonderful. And that's where the life affirming messages come into play, because in that moment when Chuck is dancing under the stars and just feeling so wonderful about himself, it really just struck me there that life is for enjoying, finding the joy in life whenever you can, and everyone deserves to feel that. Everyone deserves to feel wonderful. And that, combined with the concept of the multitudes, your inner universe, and everything you see, everyone you meet, everything you experience becomes a part of your inner universe, part of you, part of your soul, part of your heart. Every life is worth living. And those are the ultimate messages that I took away from Life of Chuck. And in that, it is kind of like It's a Wonderful Life for today's day and age, just not as straightforward as It's a Wonderful Life. And if you've been watching me or following me on Letterboxd for any period of time, you'll know that I adore these life-affirming films, films about a character's life and the experiences they have and the emotions they feel and the people they meet. And yeah, I adored The Life of Chuck. Everyone in the film was great. Tom Hiddleston, Karen Gill, and Chiwetel Ejiofor. But the standout, Benjamin Pajak, the kid who plays a 10-year-old Chuck, he was awesome. Really, really, really good. He needs to be cast in more stuff, because that's the performance that I take away from this film more than everyone else. And the score by the Newton Brothers is wonderful. When the film started, the opening logos, and you hear that kind of main motif, right then and there, I knew that I would love the film. And they need to upload the score to Spotify in the UK, for God's sake. I want to listen to it and reflect on the film and think about it all over again. I can understand why this film would not work for somebody because of its structure, telling it in reverse and starting with the most perplexing act first, but also the approach to it, the tone. It is a more sentimental film, and I like how the film is gentle with its approach, but it's not sugarcoating the realities of life, because Chuck experiences loss, but it tells Chuck that that's part of life and who he is and how that will shape him as a person. But I just appreciated Mike Flanagan taking the gentler approach, because it helps the film feel light but also digestible. But again, I can see why somebody would watch it and not respond to it. I'm just not one of those people. I was so excited for this film to the point where I was going in worried that I had overhyped myself for it like Poochie, but thankfully I adored the film. It was largely what I was expecting and hoping, and in parts not what I was expecting, but I was still fulfilled by it nonetheless. It is a life-affirming film. It's a effectively genre-blending film. The first part is kind of apocalyptic drama, the second part is part musical, third part is kind of a ghost-ish story. I thought all of that meshed together quite well. And yeah, it's a feel good film. It's got lots of heart, and it is a life affirmer, like I've said. And I'm just going to be thinking about this for the next week or two.